Why would anyone heckle or throw things at a band while they're performing? Why would anyone pay money and then attack the band that they pay money to see? Are fans starting to turn on their favorite bands? Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome to Tim Conley Drums. So as I just mentioned in my opening statement, why would anyone pay money and go and see a band and attack them? Well, not only have I witnessed this, but I've been on the receiving end of that attack as well. Heckling and throwing stuff and people being generally angry at shows has actually become quite common, especially throwing bottles and things at band members on stage. Now, usually the drummer's not the one that gets it just because he's usually in the back. And the stuff that's being thrown doesn't usually get that far. But the bass player, guitar players, keyboard player, and especially the singer, they're the ones that get it. And I'm talking about big name bands. Like I've seen Guns N' Roses. I personally witnessed this. I saw Guns N' Roses get stuff thrown at them. I saw Van Halen get stuff thrown at them. I wasn't at the show, but Metallica recently had some stuff thrown at them. And James Hetfield actually stopped the show and said, why are you throwing stuff at me? What's going on? Why are you throwing stuff at me? And he was ready to shut down the show. Now, the show didn't get shut down because security came and removed the people that were actually doing the throwing. And of course, it's like anything. It's not everybody. You've always got hooligans in every crowd. Now, it was rampant at one point. Now, the worst I ever saw, the worst was when I was at SARS Fest back in, I think, 2003, I think SARS Fest was. And I went to the SARS Fest, and of course, the headliners were the Rolling Stones, AC/DC, and Rush. And right before Rush, one of the singers from the boy band NSYNC, Justin Timberlake, when he performed right before Rush at SARS Fest, I've never seen an artist abused more. People were throwing stuff, booing. They did not want to see him perform. Now, in fairness, he shouldn't have been at this concert. People wanted, it was a rock crowd, not a pop crowd. If it was a pop crowd, he would have been fine. But because it was a rock crowd, he was mercilessly attacked. I actually felt sorry for him. And he begged the crowd. He said, look, I got to get through my set. Please allow me to play and get through my set. The crowd didn't care. They booed and threw stuff at him the whole time. He played his set. The drummer was killer. I actually enjoyed his show because I have respect for almost every musician out there, no matter what style. There's a few that I don't care for at all, but in terms of performance, not taste, in terms of performance, I always have respect for an artist performing on stage. I've never done anything weird at a concert where I was in the audience ever. But that SARS Fest thing with Justin Timberlake was a disgrace. It was terrible. Van Halen, when I was at the Van Halen concert back in, I think it was right around the same time, well, a few years later, I think it was 2007 or 2008. They kind of deserved it a little bit because Eddie was really, really drunk and Alex was getting really frustrated with him and throwing, actually Alex was throwing stuff at Eddie. He was throwing drumsticks and stuff at him because he was so pissed off because Eddie would make a mistake and then just laugh about it and restart the song and no count in. And it was a disaster. The whole show was actually a disaster. And the whole band was really frustrated with Eddie because he was rolling all over the place and falling down. At one point, he almost fell off the stage. Well, he did fall over, but the guys in the front row who were security, they kind of pushed him back up so he didn't get hurt. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that people, for unknown reasons, for reasons of their own, will sometimes attack bands. Now, if you go to a punk concert or a extreme metal concert it's almost like that's part of the culture to some extent, that they sort of attack the band from the mosh pit sometimes. Sometimes band members will actually jump into the crowd and get involved in fights in the crowd because they're not happy with what's going on in the mosh pit, or somebody got hurt or whatever. You know, there's so many different reasons for why people do what they do and why band members respond the way they do. Now, another thing is that people get insecure. People get uptight. People are jealous. And that's one of the reasons why, I think that's the main reason why they lash out. Now, how you can be a fan of the band and be jealous of them at the same time and lash out at a band, I'm not sure. Then again, maybe people go to concerts that aren't fans of the band. They actually hate the band. They still pay money and put money into the pocket of the band, but they want to go there for destructive reasons, which I don't understand that mentality, but I'm sure there are people out there that go to concerts and attend shows, even big shows, because they don't like the band and they're there to cause problems. I believe that does actually happen. It's rare, but I believe it does happen. So many bands go through phases where the fans turn on them. You know, like sometimes when, like, I'll give you an example of another show that I was at. I went and saw Foreigner. And one of the things that happened at the concert was the one member of the band, I can't remember his name, but there's one current member in the band Foreigner, Mick. His name is Mick. He was sick and he could not perform at the show. He's the only original member of Foreigner. So they had to get a sub to come in and play guitar. Now, the thing is that with Mick gone, it's no longer Foreigner. It's basically a tribute band. And people were up in arms during the show, like, where's Mick? Because people were there knowing that everybody in the band is technically, a sub. They're not original members of the band. So Mick being the only original member, people were there to see him. And while they did sound good, I mean, it sounded like Foreigner and everything, and the singer was great, it wasn't Foreigner. It was a compilation of musicians coming in and playing Foreigner music, which is basically a tribute band. And I can remember the audience not booing or rebelling in that way. They were still cheering and stuff, but talk amongst the crowd. And, at the bar area after the show, people saying, what happened to Mick? And then we found out later that Mick was sick and they had to get a sub. That happens in the real world. Rather than canceling the show completely, they decided to get a sub. Now, I think that is starting to happen with a lot of bands where fans are not going to tolerate a band that says that they are who they are, but then there is no original members in it. And even one original member in a band nowadays is pushing it. So it's causing fans to rebel a little bit. And I think that's where some of that stems from. Now, if you go and see, bands like Pearl Jam and bands like that, even like maybe Soundgarden, if you lose the singer, Stone Temple Pilots, yeah, where the singer is the focus of the band. Linkin Park is going through it right now. They're replacing the singer and they're going out on tour. They might even be out on tour now, Linkin Park. So if you take a look at iconic bands where the vocalist is premier, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, and Linkin Park as 4 examples, the singer is the premier of the band. Without that singer, if they try to replace him, it's going to be difficult. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Linkin Park. Without the original singer of Linkin Park, Chester Bennington, So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen there without Chester, because he is the focus of that band. And, now sometimes the drummer, if he's a drummer that's not known and a central part of the band, the drummer can be replaced, the bass player, even the guitar player. But in bands like that, where the singer is the focus, you cannot necessarily replace the singer. We'll see what happens. Good luck to Linkin Park. We'll see what happens. But I know the Stone Temple Pilots and Soundgarden, with those bands, you have a very hard time replacing those guys because their vocals were so unique, their stage presence so strong. Very, very difficult to replace those two. I know that Journey has successfully replaced their singer, and they've gone on to incredible success with two members of the original lineup. I was very upset when they got rid of Steve Smith on drums. They fired him. It was kind of his own doing, though, when he sued the band. You don't necessarily sue the band for song rights and expect that they're going to just, welcome you with open arms at the next show. So he got fired. He kind of did that to himself. But, fans are the focus. Let's be honest. We are paying good money to go and see these bands, and we expect that if a band advertises as a certain band, that we expect those members to be there. And when you go and it turns out to be a freaking tribute band, well, that's not, what you signed up for. If you're going to go and see a tribute band and you sign up to see a tribute band, that's different. You know that nobody is an original member of the band. It's a tribute band. And you just hope that the band lives up to the original band's sound. That's the main thing. Not necessarily look. Sometimes tribute bands look like the artists, and sometimes they don't. It all depends on the tribute band. But the bottom line is that fans sometimes turn on the band for a number of various reasons. Now, for me personally, I have been in a situation where the band got heckled because of somebody paying to be at the show, but they showed up halfway through the show and were upset because they missed out on a fan meet and greet where they were going to meet us, the people in the band, and it was a very small amount of meet and greet tickets that had been sold. I think only maybe 12 or 13 people actually came and wanted to meet us because we were a tribute band. And we did a meet and greet for the fans because the tribute band was quite successful, and he missed it. So as a result, he showed up even late to the show, and he was heckling us in between songs. He was yelling at us and saying about the band sucks and this and that. And he was basically ruining it for the people around him. And it was not a good experience. Finally, he was removed by the venue's security, kicking and screaming. But I mean, that was a situation where I was directly involved. I was somebody on stage, so I was one of the ones being heckled. We didn't understand what this guy's problem was. We found out later that he had missed this, small little intimate gathering that we had. But, you had to buy tickets. It was cheap, but you had to buy tickets to attend this meet and greet. And he missed it, and he was very upset that he didn't get a refund. That was the key. He missed it. He was late. He showed up late even to the show, and as a result, he wanted a refund, which was not given, and therefore he lashed out at us and believed that it was our fault that he didn't get his refund back, that the band was being cheap or something, But in reality, when you miss something and you buy a ticket and you choose to miss it, whether it's your fault or not your fault, it's not the band's fault. The band we're still there providing the service that you paid for. And if you choose, or even out of reasons that are out of your control, you don't attend, well, it's not the band's fault, you know? But the guy was so angry and he was drinking while he was attending the show that he decided that he was going to turn on the band and let the band know exactly what he thought of them keeping his money. Now, this personally has never happened to me. I've never been on his side of it, but I do understand where the guy's coming from. But it's still, he has to be reasonable and say to himself, well, you know, it's really my fault. And that's my final thought about that, you know. Now, I was at a concert once where it was Guns N' Roses. And after 6 songs, Axl left the stage. And he left the stage because a guy was holding up a sign. I never did find out what the sign said or what upset Axl specifically, but the security didn't remove the guy. Axl was saying, put the sign down, put the sign down. He wouldn't put the sign down. So then he said, security, remove this guy. They didn't remove him. Now, had security removed him and or the guy put the sign down, I think the show would have went on. But, you know, Axl's a rock star and he's temperamental and he can be difficult. Axl just decided, you either put the sign down or I'm ending the whole show. Now, that guy, I don't know what happened to him because he was the reason why the show ended. Did he get beat up? Probably. I was quite far from him. I remember seeing him, and at first I didn't know what the hell was going on. I remember seeing a guy with a big sign and Axl talking, and at first I didn't understand who, you know, you're way back behind the things that are going on, and when a lead singer is talking to a crowd member, you don't really know what's going on. I sort of found out more. Again, it's a situation where I found out what was going on after the concert. People were talking about it out in the bar area and then outside of the venue as well. So finally, I figured out what had happened. But 6 songs in, and you pay a ton of money to see a band like Guns N' Roses, people were not happy. And at one point, I heard, let's trash the place. Well, as soon as I heard that, that was my cue to leave because I do not want to be in any riot where they're trashing the place, setting fires, violence, beating people up, you know, going after the instruments, stealing stuff, whatever they're going to do in a rioting situation. So I got out of there as quickly as I possibly could. I did, like I said, when I was in the bar area, I did not stick around at all. I just was passing through and I heard people talking. Outside the venue is where I heard more of the people talking because I actually felt safe outside of the venue. And I talked to a few people about the situation with the guy with the sign, and then I left. But that was a scary situation to be in where I actually thought the place was going to go up because the fans were demanding their money back. And of course, well, I didn't get my money back. Nobody got their money back. It's almost like if you go and see a band like Guns N' Roses and you're dealing with someone like Axl, it's almost inherent that if he decides that he's going to cut the show short, the show is short. Now, I went and saw Black Sabbath one time, and the fans didn't get upset, but they only played 13 songs. That's not a lot of songs at a concert, and you're paying top dollar to see a band like Black Sabbath, and they only did 13 songs. So it was a little disappointing in the sense that it was short, but the fans didn't complain. We didn't know going in how many songs they were going to play, but they only played 13, and that was the shortest concert. Now, I went to a Rush concert, and they played for over 3 hours, and I've been to many, many shows where they play for over 3 hours. I think Bruce Springsteen does a 3.5-hour show. Bryan Adams does a 3-hour show, you know. Bands that I've seen, most of them give the audience what they definitely want to hear. But there's always going to be those unhappy fans that are going to lash out at concerts. And like I said, people drinking, that always adds to the toxicity of these people when they're at a concert. Let me know from you guys if you've been at a concert where the crowd lashed out or the band maybe lashed out at the crowd. Heckling can go both ways, but usually it's the crowd that starts the heckling. Mosh pit's a different thing. All kinds of bands have mosh pits, and the bands encourage the mosh pits. usually. When I went and saw Slipknot, the mosh pit was insane. You couldn't pay me to go in it because I thought busted nose is just not worth jumping around in there. Plus, I was too old at the time. I think I was about 52 or 53 at the Slipknot concert, and I'm not going in a mosh pit. I've never been one for mosh pits to begin with. I used to play in a punk band years and years ago before the mosh pit days, so to speak. Back in the early 80s, late 70s, I played in a punk band, and that's when the mosh pit was probably just starting. Nobody ever formed a mosh pit at any of the shows that I did back then, but I'm pretty sure that's when they started. Could have been earlier, maybe the Sex Pistols in the 70s, but I never saw the Sex Pistols, so I don't know. Anyways, thanks very much for joining me. And like I said, please leave a comment about any show that you've been at where the audience turned on the artist, or the artist may have turned on the audience. You never know. It goes both ways. Thanks a lot for watching. And as always, keep drumming. See ya.